What is the thing about each ACC team? And the way I came up with these is no team is the same, right? This is one of those you know it when you see it things. Some of them were decided upon based on what I saw at ACC kickoff. Some of them were decided upon based on what they did in the transfer portal, their histories, a lot of different ways to go. But we're just going to go alphabetically through it, starting with Boston College. What is Boston College's thing this year? It's Bill O'Brien. Can Bill O'Brien make people want to play and stay in Boston, right? It's been one of those more difficult situations to recruit to. Jeff Hafley, their coach, who I got a few friends that are actually Boston College fans. They liked Hafley. He left to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL for the Packers. So Bill O'Brien taking over. Bill O'Brien could have a lot of different college jobs. Let's just call a spade a spade. He won 3 straight division titles in the NFL. He can, and he turned around Penn State in an unbelievable time after the Joe Paterno sanctions and everything. So he chose Boston College. I think their thing is going to be, can he make others choose Boston College? Can he make recruits and transfers and elite assistant coaches choose Boston College? Because it seems like they're getting, the last 10, 15, like really since Matt Ryan, it feels like they've been dealing with the best they could do, right? It's like, what else are you going to do? We're trying here. But Bill O'Brien can bring a little bit more spark to that.
Well, the question is, will he want to stay in Boston?
True.
If he does well this season, someone's going to come knocking on the door.
Very true.
With his track record.
And this was something I noticed at ACC kickoff. It's the first time like Boston College's coach walked into the room and people's heads kind of turned. Like, oh, look, it's the Boston College coach. I mean, they were saying it's Bill O'Brien. But it's a new kind of swag for them, I guess might be the term. Cal.
Who?
Cal. The Berkeley Bears. This could just be like, how's the ACC going to be? But I tried to go beyond that with all 3 new teams, just saying, like, what's it like to travel? How good is Jaden Ott? I think that's what it comes down to. Because Jaden Ott was unbelievable, and I've fallen in love with some of his highlights, and I've watched the YouTube. But there is a bit of a Pac-12 old reputation that they weren't always the stoutest on defense, particularly in the front 7. Right, the Pac-12. It was the Pac-12 after dark. The score is going to be 68-57, and there's going to be some actual good defensive backs that have like pick sixes in the game. But the front 7s were never very vaunted. So I want to see what Jaden Ott does in the ACC when he has to go up against some teams, some coaches, some defensive coordinators that are more apt to dealing with, smash mouth off tackle running games. He's really good though. Clemson. Clemson, I mean, I say every team has one storyline about them. There's always this kind of, you don't know it until you see it, the spine of their skeleton of a season. Clemson is one of the few teams that can have like 12. It just seems like they usually have a lot going on. But I think the main one is this. Do you need transfers to compete with top contenders? They're playing Georgia right out the gosh darn gate. Now, Clemson has played those big games in the past, right? They've played the best teams in the SEC, the best teams from the Big 12, like in non-conference games. They've never looked out-talented. They've won some, they've lost some, but they've always looked like they're on par with, speed and size and all those things, at least over the last 10, 12 years. I want to see them against Georgia in week 1. I want to see them against State in, I think, week 4. I want to see them against some of these teams that have embraced the transfer portal and see if it's like, ooh, there's a couple guys on the field that look pretty outmatched for Clemson. I'm sure they would have liked to have replaced them on the depth chart. Obviously, Barrett Carter is going to be fine, right? Obviously, they're going to have their handful of guys that are still going to be elite. But do you need transfers to compete with the top contenders, top to bottom? Duke's up, next in alphabetical order. I'm interested to see if you agree with this one, Dennis.
Okay.
I have, can Manny Diaz keep Mike Elko's momentum alive? As the question, the storyline. And the reason being, I'll give you my little explanation here, my elevator pitch. I think everything they do this year is going to be compared to the last two. Their first big game, if they lose, it's going to be, well, they played much better than them last year. Their defense, if they give up 30 points, it's going to go, well, Mike Elko's team only gave up 19 a game. Like, everything they do is going to be so directly compared, let alone if Riley Leonard is playing well at Notre Dame or if Mike Elko has the team playing well at Texas A&M. Like, everything is just going to be so compared. So if Manny Diaz can do just a few things better, just a handful, so they can say, well, actually, we improved there based on last year, I think that would go a long way towards making the story a happy one.
He's just got to keep the ship moving.
He's got to keep and keep the ship moving, and also not move back in too many ways.
I mean,
like, the talent is less. Your best offensive players for Notre Dame, your best defensive players playing for Virginia Tech, your head coach is coaching for Texas A&M.
You have 2 offensive linemen in the NFL now.
Yes. One a first-round pick
and a
that's going to be
defensive
starting.
lineman that was like a 3rd or 4th round pick, and Dwayne Carter.
And your running back is playing for NC State. Like,
yeah.
You're going to take steps back, but I think as long as you mix in like a leap forward somewhere, that's going to give you a lot of like, hey, we're keeping the momentum going, even if, we're not going to win 9 games this year.
I think through their first 4 games, they should be 3-1. Through their first 4.
I think that would go a long way towards making the rest of the season palatable.
And you can ride that momentum to 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what?
8-4, sign me up.
Yeah, if you're Duke, 8-4, yeah, absolutely.
Sign me up. Bowl eligibility by a while. Like, it's not coming down to the wire. That probably means you have your quarterback situation figured out. Like, there's a lot of good that comes with 8-4. Florida State. I had 2, and I'm going to let you pick, Dennis. One's football, one's not related to football. One is, how big does the gap, the wedge, that's the word. How big does the wedge that's been driven between Florida State and the ACC grow, as far as they don't want to be here?
No, clearly.
As far as, well, if you don't want to be here, we're going to make it miserable for you.
And that's the school, not the players.
No, but I do think other schools will look at that and go like, we better stick it to them.
Maybe.
And then the other is, was it smart to bring DJ Uiagalelei back to the ACC?
Talking about a guy with a chip on his shoulder, I'm sure.
I get that he played better at Oregon State. I get that he's a new man. I get that he's older, more mature, wiser. But I remember the last time he was in the ACC.
Yeah, he was sitting on the bench of Clemson behind Kate Klubnik.
Was it like, that's a big – Florida State is a good roster. They have good talent just about everywhere. They play the portal with a lot of NIL money. They recruit well out of high school. They return, obviously, some key components of a really good season from last year. They're betting it all on DJU.
I remember in the ACC championship game 2 years ago, 2022, against North Carolina, he got benched for Klubnik. I was there. I was like, wait a second.
It's a long way from that magical freshman game when Trevor Lawrence didn't play against Notre Dame and he threw for like 500 yards. So Florida State, I guess we'll go with, was it smart to bring DJU back is kind of the question.
That's the big question.
Because if it doesn't work, if DJU struggles, we're all going to look around and be like, yeah, could have told you that one, bud. Like, it's not going to – sometimes I do this in gambling. I just make the pick that I think I'll feel less stupid about if it's wrong. Just to save myself some sanity. It does seem like if you bring the guy back to a place where he failed before and he fails again, you're going to go like, yeah, we overthought that one, didn't we? We not our best. Georgia Tech, this might be my favorite storyline. Can you win in the ACC consistently with an offensive line coach and an offensive line mentality as your head coach? Georgia Tech is going to pound the rock. They are coached by like almost a sitcom version of a coach. I, by the way, really like what they do, but they led the league in rushing yards per game, yards per carry. Like, they are a running team when everyone else is going, let's air it out. Let's get 4 wide receivers out there. How many guys that are on a 4-4 can we get on the field at the same time? Our running game is going to be mostly RPOs. So even our running game could be a 20-yard touchdown pass. Georgia Tech is like, or, hear me out, your head coach could be a former offensive line coach. We could get a tight end that's 280, put him next to the offensive line, and run downhill at you. That's just going to be the story of Georgia Tech. And then, yes, Haynes King, your quarterback, to make a few third down completions, a couple big plays, call it a day.
Remember when they were down in the fourth quarter against North Carolina and they ran the football to come back?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how they're going to win games. Simple as that. That's how they're going to win.
Quarterback turns it's the definition of an offensive line coach. If the quarterback throws a pick on like the second drive, you're just going to the offensive line. We won't throw it then. We're going to run it every play. Can't trust them. Like it's just that's the Georgia Tech vibe I get. Louisville. As we make our way around the ACC, what's their thing for each team? They're the opposite of Clemson. Clemson, it's can you win with no transfers? Louisville is almost can you win exclusively with transfers.
That's all they do.
8 of their projected starters on offense are incoming transfers this year. 8 of the 11. And the ones you care about, right? They have their number 1 wide receiver, the quarterback, the running back, a bunch of the offensive line. Like they are transfer you. And they did pretty much the same thing last year, right? Braum, their new coach, brought in a bunch of transfers with them, and they had success. So he said, let's do it again.
Let's run it back.
I don't know if that's going to be consistent. I think every couple years you could stumble into like, hey, we got all the right transfers. We're really good. I'm not sure if that's an every year thing where you're just like, new offense, ready-made, put it in the microwave. Miami. Is it cruel to just ask the same question you could ask for Miami for the last 20 years? The storyline for Miami is the same. Will they ever live up to the hype? Will they ever live up to their recruiting rankings? Will the U ever be back? That's what it is. That's what it's always going to be.
Yep, 7-5 Miami last year.
They're going to have NFL first-round draft picks. They're going to have 5-star recruits. Mm-hmm. They're going to have big-name boosters. They're going to have, like, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed on the sideline and Willis McGahee and Frank Gore and Andre Johnson and Santonio Moss. Was it Santonio Moss? Did I make that up?
Santana Moss,
Santonio Holmes and Santana Moss. Like they're going to all be there. Will you live up to the hype? I wish I could see the amount of like celebrity sideline passes for like week 2 for Miami compared to week 12 every year. Because like week 2, we're back. Let's get Michael Irvin. Let's get all of them. And then week 12, it's like, hey, man, we got Ken Dorsey. Actually, he's probably coaching. NC State. It's the offensive weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
It's Casey Concepcion. It's Noah Rogers. It's Justin Jolie. It's Jordan Waters. It's Wesley Grimes. It's Collins coming back, having a big year. Like, that's what it is. It's can you take advantage of the weaponry? We've talked about them a lot. UNC we've talked about a lot. UNC's up next. Will the quarterback be good enough?
Well, who is it?
Notice I didn't say will Max Johnson be good enough. I didn't say will Connor Harrell. I said will the quarterback be good enough. I think their defense will be improved. Obviously, they need to find a pass rush. I haven't done that last couple of years. And they have to replace Cedric Gray, but I like Power Echols back there. I think their running game is going to be great. I think they have enough pass catchers, particularly tight ends. It's will the quarterback be good enough? For Pitt as a whole team, they're kind of just Pitt. They're always going to be Pitt. They got Pitt, right? Narduzzi, they're Pitt. I'm fascinated by their quarterback, Nate Yarnell. He played 6 games. Started 6 games in his high school career. And then he has 6 appearances in college.
That's it.
And he's going into, I believe, his 4th year of college, which means over the last 8 years, he has made 9 starts. And now he's going to be the starting quarterback for an ACC team. So I guess the storyline is going to be, do you have to play football to get really good at football?
Or apparently not.
Can you just walk in and be good at it after practicing? SMU, I think it's all about the jump to the ACC. How tough is it to jump from Group of 5 to Power 5? Everyone's really excited about you, but can you execute week in and week out against better competition? Stanford, this could be mean. Do they care about football anymore? It seems like there's a little pushing to the back burner of football for Stanford. It's not as invested in the way it once was. They got a lot of Olympians. They got a lot of billionaire alumni. They got a lot of other things they're interested in, solving diseases and things. They got a lot of other things Stanford is focused on. Do they care about football anymore?
And their athletic department outside of football is phenomenal.
Yes. I mean,
they're just like UVA in that regard.
I want to say they were number one as far as medals won by alumni or current people.
Yeah, ACC.
Stanford, Cal, UVA, 1, 2, 3. ACC stand up.
Let's go.
Granted, that was a lot of Katie Ledecky.
I don't care. He's an ACC legend.
Syracuse. It's Kyle McCord, right? He's coming from Ohio State where he was playing for, a national championship right up until the end last year.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this is his first time in 7 years where he is a quarterback on a team that doesn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. They played together all through high school, all through college. That's a big safety blanket to suddenly be without.
How good are you?
Let's find out, right?
I could probably throw for 150 yards if I had Marvin Harrison Jr. as a wide receiver.
Okay, like they give you like an old school John Gruden play, right? Trips right, spider Y banana, X under with a backside George reverse. Like your life depends on it. Who's your first read? Expecting to say like post, expecting to play, play side seam, whatever it is. Where's Marvin?
Yeah,
that's my first read.
Him.
Then I try to figure something else out, but I always look to Marvin first. Can't do that at Syracuse this year. UVA, will Tony Elliott work at all? I have to admit, when Tony Elliott took over at UVA, I thought that was going to be a really good mesh. He was the offensive coordinator from Clemson. He knew how to recruit the region. He had an offense that had produced Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence and ETN and all of these guys, all these receivers. And I was like, UVA, they got some resources, right? They got some rich alumni. Like, this might be a thing. They promised new stadium upgrades. It just hasn't been there since Tony Elliott took over. It hasn't had that whatever I thought was going to happen. And he's now been there a handful of years. Maybe not 5, but not 1 either. So it's getting to put up or shut up time for the coach. Virginia Tech, how much does stability matter? They're bringing back, depending on what you consider a returning starter, 21 or 22 starters. There's one that started like 6 games. I don't know if you count that.
Yeah, I count that.
22 starters.
Half the season.
Everybody that says the portal, that's not how you build the program. You can't keep recruiting over these guys. Oh, you can't. You mess with their heads. You need to be loyal. Virginia Tech's bringing back all their starters.
Yeah.
Now, Aeneas Peoples from Duke will probably work his way into that starting lineup.
Probably.
But they're returning a defensive tackle there if they need to. How much does that actually translate to wins?
Virginia Tech football right now is just an entrance. That's all you are. They're just an entrance.
You mean the
Enter Sandman? You're just an entrance. That's all you are.
They're good.
Outside of that,
they have good turkey legs in the stands.
Good for them. Congrats.
I don't know. You like talking about stadium foods?
Sure.
Yeah, I think they were a dark horse last year, and it's now how much does stability actually build on that, or are you like everybody else where you're starting over from scratch, like every team that brought in a bunch of new guys, and then alphabetically only, not last in our hearts, Wake Forest.
Wake.
Can Dave Clawson get his program back to surprising people? That used to be a guarantee. Even when they won like, 11, 12 games in 2021, whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
Even that year, I feel like there were like 3 or 4 games where you're like, oh, yeah, their opponent wasn't expecting the punch in the mouth they just got. Wake Forest was just always about catching you sleeping. They were going to punch you in the mouth. They were going to surprise you. They were going to pop out with a really good performance against a ranked team. Last year, it didn't feel like that. Last year, it felt like my 3-year-old when they're hiding, right? He's like just laying down on the couch thinking he's hiding. We got to pretend like we don't see him. Whoa, where could you be? He's got a pillow blocking his face, but his whole body's out in the open. Like, that was Wake Forest sneaking up on people last year. Before that, they were the ones that you couldn't find. They were the friend who, when you were playing hide and seek as a kid, all right, everybody go hide. He went and got snacks because he was like, I'm going to be there for a while, and y'all aren't going to find me. That was Wake Forest sneaking up on people. I want them to get back to that because I don't know if they're ever going to be a powerhouse.
So we saw it in 2016 through 20 2016 through 2019. 7 wins, 8 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins. Then 2020, COVID year, they went 4-5. Things were kind of wonky. Then the year after, they had the 11-3 season. 2022, 8-5 overall. They won the Gasparilla Bowl, so they had 7 wins in the regular season. Last year was kind of like the reset year. So anytime we've seen Dave Clawson kind of have that reset year, they've bounced back pretty strong.
So and that's kind of the question, right? Is can they do that again? Get back to being them? And part of that also, like it would be kind of incorrect to not mention you had Sam Hartman for a very long time and then you didn't. It's a certain level of confidence comes from having a guy that good for that long. And then last year, Mitch Griffiths tried admirably. They had 3 or 4 different quarterbacks that gave their best. And hopefully they have that solved this year so they can get back to punch people in the mouth.